Now, several laps into the session, Rich Snape looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Rich Snape is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Over half an hour left on the clock, but we are still waiting to see Jimmy Lindo post representative time. Neil Constable-Berry begins their outlap, feeling out the track conditions.
This outlap is crucial for setting up the car's systems and getting a feel for the track. Fannin is taking his time to head out. Sometimes you just want to let the track rubber in a bit, but with 32 minutes left, he'll want to get a feel for the brake bite sooner rather than later.
Jimmy Lindo pops up into P3 with a 146.7, showing us exactly why he was taking his time in the garage.
Renee Robertson is the last of the big hitters still waiting in the stalls. You don't get points for being first out, but you do need to find where the limit is before qualifying starts.
Still no time on the board for John Boontakis. We're ticking down towards the 30-minute mark, and that garage floor must be getting lonely. Nigel Walters just decimated the timing screens. A 143.5 puts him straight to the top of the pile.
That is a massive statement. Walters found the apexes perfectly on that run, but he might have used the best of those tires to do it. Still no sign of Robertson. Every minute he spends in the pits is a minute he's not learning how the car reacts as the fuel load drops.
Still silence from the Bondakakis camp as we go under 30 minutes remaining.
It's a risky game. If there's a red flag or a technical glitch now, he's going into the competitive sessions completely blind on setup. Fannin is still playing the waiting game. He's a veteran, he knows his markers, but at some point you just need to get the blood flowing and the tires up to temp.
The clock is counting down, and we still haven't seen Renee Robertson emerge from the lane.
He might be making a major setup change. Sometimes you realize the sim data doesn't match the track feel, and you have to strip the car back to find that front-end grip.
Lindo finds another gear and shaves nearly a second off his previous best, but a 145.8 only secures him fourth for now.
Constable Barry ducks into the 44s to claim P3. That car looks settled over the curbs. Very tidy work through the technical sections.
Robert Cormack joins the list of drivers yet to post a flyer. The pressure's mounting to get some rubber on the road with only 26 minutes to go.
Neil's holding steady in third, but I suspect he's working on race pace now rather than chasing Nigel's top time.
Jody Fannin finally wakes up the timing screen, and he goes straight into P3 with a 144.2.
He didn't waste any time getting those tires up to temperature. That's the confidence of a driver who knew exactly what setup he wanted before he even left the garage.
"25 minutes left in the session, and the timing board is still showing a blank for Robert Cormack.
Fannin's sticking with that 44.2 for now. He'll be looking at the data to see where Nigel Walters is finding those extra 7/10ths.
Rich Snape splits the difference. He jumps into P2 with a 143.8.
Snape is really finding his flow. He's trailing Walters by just 3/10ths now. And you could see him using every inch of the exit curbs on that lap.
John Boontakis finally sets a time, and it's a solid entry into the top 5, clocking in at a 1:45 dead.
Fanon is holding that third spot, but the gaps are tightening up. He's got to find a bit more in the final sector if he wants to challenge the front row.
Nigel Walters just lowered the benchmark again. He's found even more time to sit at a 1:43.4.
He's relentless. Usually you'd see a driver back off after setting a purple lap, but Nigel is out there hunting for every thousandth. Fanon is staying out there on that 1:44.2, likely testing the car's balance as the fuel burns off.
Renee Robertson finally puts a number on the board, a 1:45.0 to slot into 6th place.
He's played a very late hand today. That's a decent banker. But with 21 minutes left, he's got a mountain to climb to catch Walters at the top.
Rich Snape isn't letting Walters out of his sights, improving to a 1:43.7.
He's chipping away at it. That gap is down to about a quarter of a second now. Snape looks like he's really dialed in his braking points.
Jimmy Lindo has slipped down to 7th as the others find their pace.
He hasn't improved on that 1:45.8 for a while. He might be struggling with a bit of understeer through the mid-corner phase.
Robert Cormack finally sets a lap, but it's a 1:47.8, putting him 10th fastest.
It's a start, but he's 4 seconds off the pace. I've been there when the car just doesn't feel right under you. It takes a few laps to build that trust in the rear end.
Rich Snape is holding steady in 2nd, but he's gone quiet on the timing screens for a few laps now.
He'll be looking at his sector deltas. When you're that close to the top, you start experimenting with different lines to see where that final 10th is hiding.
David Constable Barry breaks into the top 4 with a 143.9.
Great lap from David. Getting into those 43s is the benchmark today, and he's right in the mix with the leaders now.
Cormac finds half a second, bringing his best down to a 147.3.
He's still rooted to the bottom of the table, but the trend is moving in the right direction. He just needs to string those sectors together.
Jody Fannin has been shuffled down to 5th as David Constable Barry moved up.
Fannin won't be happy with that. He's got the speed, he just needs to find a clear pocket of air to put a clean lap together.
Cormac is staying out there, but that 147.3 is leaving him a long way back from the pack.
He needs to find a rhythm. It looks like he's overdriving the car a bit, probably missing his apexes, because he's trying to force the lap time to come to him. David's sitting pretty in 4th, but he'll be feeling the heat from Fannin, who is only a few tenths back.
Still in 10th for Robert Cormac as we head into the final 16 minutes of practice.
He might want to head back to the pits, reset the tire pressures, and go for one final qualifying simulation run.
Martin Moll jumps into the session and clocks a 146.3, pushing Cormac further down the order. Walters is just showing off now, 143.3 to tighten his grip on P1. Lindo finds more pace, down to a 144.6, but it's only enough for 8th in this incredibly tight field.
The track is clearly speeding up as the temperature changes. If you're not improving every stint, you're going backwards today.
Cormac is currently languishing in 11th, and that 147.3 is looking a bit lonely at the bottom of the monitor.
He's really struggling to find the sweet spot with the car's balance. At this stage, he might just be doing high fuel runs to see how it handles a heavy tank.
Nigel Walters has just been knocked off his perch. He drops to second, despite that blistering 143.3.
This session is catching fire now. When you put in a lap that good and still get bumped, you know the competition is at an elite level.
Jody Fannin slips to 6th. The mid-pack is getting incredibly crowded as the times continue to tumble. Martin Mole is holding on to 10th place with that 146.3.
He needs to start aggressive on the throttle. He's leaving too much time on the table at the exits, likely trying to save the rear tires for the long run. Fannin hasn't found an answer to the pace at the top. He's nearly a second off the lead now, which is a lifetime in a series this close.
Bantakis puts it all together. A 143.395 puts him third, just a thousandth of a second behind Walters.
Lindo is tucked away in 8th. He's going to need to find a way to bridge that gap to the 43s if he wants to be a factor in qualifying.
Neil Constable-Berry improves slightly to a 144.2, moving up to 6th.
Every little bit helps, but he's still in that mid-pack scrap. He'll be looking at his telemetry to see where he's losing out to his brother David.
Ten minutes on the clock, and Robert Cormack is still stuck in 11th. Time is running out to find a setup that works for him.
Lindo seems to have hit a plateau with that 44.6. He might be struggling to get the car to rotate through the slower corners.
Renee Robertson jumps up to 7th with a 144.264.
He's finding his feet now. That's a massive chunk of time he's found compared to his earlier efforts, but he's still nearly a second off the pace setter.
Huge improvement for Martin Mole. He leaps into 6th with a 1:44.0.
That's more like it. He's finally found the rhythm he was looking for. Look at the commitment through the faster sections. He's really leaning on those tires now.
Lindo is sliding down the order, now sitting in 9th as others find their speed in the closing minutes of practice.
Walters is throwing everything at it. A 1:43.1 and he's still in 2nd place. This session is absolutely lightning fast.
Adam Tyus puts himself into the top 10 with a 1:45.1. Solid work, but he's got work to do to bridge the gap to the leaders. Robertson breaks into the 43s. He's down to a 1:43.8, holding 7th.
He's definitely found something in the setup. That car looks much more planted on the entry to the corners than it did 10 minutes ago.
Jody Fannin vaults up to 4th. That 1:43.4 puts him right in the thick of the lead battle.
Walters is staying out there, likely trying to see if he can find another 10th to reclaim that top spot before the flag drops.
Neil Constable-Berry is down in 8th. He's improved to a 1:44.2, but the pace at the front is just relentless today. Renee Robertson is on a charge. He jumps to 5th with a 1:43.5.
He's really hooked it up. After that slow start, he's showing the kind of pace that could see him on the front row if he keeps this momentum into qualifying.
Martin Mole finds even more time. A 1:43.7 puts him into 6th place.
Tyus is chipping away at it, now down to a 1:44.8. He's looking much more comfortable as the session winds down.
3.5 minutes left, and Dominic Fovarg still hasn't posted a time. He's leaving it incredibly late to get any track data.
Stokes is another one still in the garage. At this point, you're basically just doing a systems check before the real work begins in qualifying.
Fovarg finally gets a time on the board, a 1:45.7 for 11th.
He's basically just checking that the wheels are pointed in the right direction at this stage. Not much time left to do anything meaningful with that data.
Rich Snape hits the top, a 1:43.076 to take P1 in the dying moments of practice.
Lindo is still in ninth. He'll be frustrated not to have dipped into the 43s like the guys ahead of him.
Snape looks set to finish this session on top as we enter the final minute.
It's a huge psychological boost heading into qualifying. He knows he has the car underneath him to take pole if he can repeat that lap.
Tyus is coming across the line for what might be his final attempt of the session.
He's stuck in that 10 spot for now. He'll be spending the break looking at the telemetry to see why he's nearly 2 seconds off Snape's benchmark.
Walters finishes practice in second. He was the man to beat for so long, but Snape just snatched it away at the death. Adam Tyus is pushing hard to find something more before the flag falls, but he's currently anchored to that 10th position. Lindo is running out of road here with just over a minute left. That 44.6 puts him right on the edge of the top 10.
He needs to be careful not to overcook the entries now. Chasing time when the grip is falling away is a recipe for a trip to the scenery. Tyus is keeping it tidy in 10th, likely just making sure he's hitting his marks consistently for the race run.
Let's get this qualifying session underway here at Sportsland SUGO. There are just over 5 minutes left in this qualification session. David Constable Barry is just rolling out now, 5 minutes on the clock to find a gap in the traffic.
He needs to get heat into those tires quickly. In a short session like this, you can't afford a wasted lap just scrubbing the surface.
Chris Stokes is cutting it fine. Nearly 90 seconds gone, and we still haven't seen a representative time from him.
Martin Mull is really playing the waiting game here. With 4 minutes left, he's basically banking on one perfect heater to get the job done.
Adam Tyus is still waiting for the track to come to him, but the window is closing fast.
He's putting a massive amount of pressure on himself. One mistake or a yellow flag now, and he's starting from the back of the grid.
Tyus goes straight to the top with a 1:45.4. That is a serious statement for his first flying lap.
Robertson is flying, showing green on the dash against a 44.2. He's found more time somewhere out there.
Neil Constable-Berry is absolutely on the limit, just a 100th up on his personal best through this sector.
Tyus has dropped down the order as others finish their runs, but look at that delta, nearly 4/10 up. He's clawing his way back toward the front.
Tyus improves to a 44.6, but in this field, that only gets him P9 as the clock ticks down toward the final seconds.
Robertson is right on his own pace. He's squeezed every drop out of those tires. Now it's just about holding it together to the line.
Constable-Berry is chasing 10ths now, slightly ahead of his best time with the checkered flag looming. Walters is finding time right when it matters, over a 10th up as the session clock hits 0.
This is the golden lap. The track is at its grippiest, and he's clearly found a bit more confidence under braking to extract that extra pace.
Look at Robertson go. He is nearly a quarter of a second up on his best time, with the flag about to fly.
He's found a massive chunk of time in the middle sector. If he nails this final sequence, he could jump right up the front of the grid.
Stokes is on a flyer here, over a 10th up on his current P3 time.
He's really hustling that car now. You can see he's using every inch of the curbs to keep that momentum up through the fast stuff.
A 43.6 for Stokes. He stays in third, but he's whittled that gap down to the front row even further.
Walters is absolutely lighting up the timing screens, half a second up on his previous best. That's going to skyrocket him up the standings if he finishes the lap.
Fauvargue is chipping away at that lap time, just a fraction up as he works through the middle of the lap. Bontegis is struggling on this run, nearly half a second off his best pace as he comes through the sector.
He might have asked too much of the rear tires early in the lap. Once you overheat them, you're just a passenger on those corner exits.
Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal. We should definitely get it on.
Pole offers David Constable-Berry a chance to control the race. Rich Snape starts from the front row today. That Cortina MK1 looks immaculate under the lights.
P2 is a massive result for an AM driver in qualifying. Snape needs to hold his nerve when those lights go out because the Pro Pack behind him will be relentless.
Right behind Snape, we've got Nigel Walters, making it an all-British, all-Cortina second row.
Walters in third is perfectly placed to pounce if the leaders get tangled up. Two AM drivers in the top three really puts the cat among the pigeons for the championship standings.
Jody Fannin lines up in fifth, and you have to think the pro driver is looking at those AM cars ahead like they are standing still.
Fannin won't stay in P5 for long. He knows exactly how to work the weight transfer in that MK1 to find a gap where nobody else sees one.
John Boontakis rounds out the top six. The Greek driver has got a real mountain to climb with Fannin starting right in front of him.
Starting mid-pack in a Cortina is chaos. Boontakis needs to be precise with his shifts and stay out of the door banging that usually happens 3 wide into the first turn.
Martin Mol is buried a bit further back than we expected in eighth, but don't count the Dutchman out just yet.
He's out of position for a pro. Mull will be looking to pick off those ahead of him one by one, using that experience to manage his tires while the others burn theirs out.
Adam Tyus is sitting 10th on the grid, right in the middle of that Hornets nest of Cortinas.
It is a tough place to be. Tyus has to focus on his own line and not get sucked into the midfield scrappiness, or he will lose the lead group entirely.
Jimmy Lindo starts just outside the top 10, leading the charge for the Pro-Am honors today.
Lindo's in a sandwich there. He's got the pace to move forward, but he's got to be careful not to get his nose clipped while the AM drivers ahead are fighting for territory.
Lucky 13 for Robert Cormack. He is starting deep in the pack and looking at a sea of taillights.
Down there, your vision is so limited. Cormack needs to react to the smoke and the brake lights ahead, not just the flag, or his race could be over before the first lap is done.
Green flag! The engines are screaming as the field thunders towards the first braking zone.
Clean start for the front row, but it is absolute carnage further back as they all try to occupy the same bit of tarmac.
David Constable-Barry holds his nerve and keeps that lead, soaking up the pressure through the opening sequence.
Perfect launch from Constable-Barry. Leading the first lap is all about setting the rhythm and making the guys behind drive to your mirrors.
Neil Constable-Barry has slipped back a spot early on, losing out in the opening skirmishes.
He got pinched on the inside there. It's so easy to lose momentum in these Cortinas. Once you lose that exit speed, the whole train just whistles past you.
Stokes is on the move already, snatching third place before the first lap is even in the books.
He sniffed out a gap and didn't hesitate. That is exactly the kind of aggression you need to disrupt the rhythm of the guys on the front row.
Chris Stokes is wasting no time at all. He has muscled his way into the podium spots already.
He used the slipstream perfectly. That MK1 Cortina is wide, but Stokes found the gap and committed. He is looking very dangerous early on.
Fovarg is all over the back of Constable-Barry now, just 2/10 of it.
Niels had a rough start, dropping into the clutches of Dominic, who's looking to demote him even further down the order.
Fannin is stalking Stokes for that final podium spot, half a second the gap as we settle into this 9-minute sprint.
Fannin's pro instincts are kicking in. He's testing the waters, seeing where Stokes is weak, and that 1:51 opening lap shows they are both pushing the limits of the tires already.
Fannin is closing in. He's hacked 2/10 off the gap to Stokes, and he is right in the wheel tracks now.
He's taking a tighter line to stay out of the dirty air. You can see the car dancing under him. He's absolutely desperate to find a way past Stokes before the tires start to go off.
Jimmy Lindo is glued to the back of Robertson's Cortina, 3/10 the difference as they fight for 7th.
Lindo is much faster through the mid-corner. If he can just get a better exit than Rene, he'll have a look into the next braking zone.
Fannin's lost a bit of ground to Stokes there, the gap opening back up to half a second with 8 minutes on the clock.
He might have asked too much of the front tires trying to close in. When you're following that closely in these cars, the understeer just kills your momentum.
Fannin is clawing it back, 10th by 10th, keeping the pressure firmly on Stokes' rear bumper.
Stokes can't afford a single mistake. Fannin is varying his entries now, trying to force Chris to check his mirrors and miss an apex.
Robertson is on a charge, clocking a 1 minute 44 seconds and 9 milliseconds and putting Nigel Walters under serious threat for 6th.
That's a blistering pace from Rene. Walters is having to defend the inside line already, and that's only going to hurt his exit speed onto the straights.
Notakis has tumbled down the order to 13th, but he's fighting back, right on the tail of Robert Cormack.
He's clearly got the bit between his teeth after that drop. A 1 minute 44 seconds and 8 milliseconds is a serious statement of intent. He's significantly faster than the cars immediately ahead of him right now.
Bonchkis makes the move stick. He's past Cormack and has already checked out, pulling over 2 seconds clear.
That was a clinical overtake. He didn't just pass him, he broke the toe immediately. Untakis is on a recovery mission, and he is not taking any prisoners.
Fovarg is still hunting down Neil Constableberry, but the gap is stretched out to over half a second.
Dominic is struggling with the rear end through the faster sections. I can see him wrestling that Cortina. He's losing time trying to keep the car pointed in the right direction, while Neil just pulls away.
Lindo is keeping Robertson honest, but that gap is holding steady at 6/10 as we approach the midpoint of the race.
This is a high-speed game of chess. Lindo's matching Rene's pace almost to the millisecond, waiting for that one tiny slip-up or a lock-up to pounce.
Robertson is starting to break Lindo's heart here, pulling the gap out to nearly a full second.
Lindo's fallen out of the slipstream. That is the danger zone. Once you lose that toe on the straights, you're just fighting a losing battle against the air.
The tables have turned. Neil Constableberry is now the one doing the chasing, trailing Fovarg by half a second.
Fovarg must have pulled off a great move to get back ahead. Now it's Neil's turn to deal with the dirty air and the heat coming off the back of that car in 10th.
Jody Fannin is absolutely flying, a 1 minute 44 seconds and 1 millisecond, but he just cannot seem to get within striking distance of Stokes.
These two are so evenly matched, it's scary. Fannin is pushing so hard he's nearly matching his best time of the session. But Stokes is answering every single punch.
Stokes finds a bit of breathing room. That gap to Fannin has opened up to 8/10 of a second.
Fannin missed an apex back there. I saw the front end washout. That's all it takes at this level to lose the momentum you've spent 3 laps building up.
Lindo is right back in the fight. He's closed that gap down to 4/10 with his best lap of the race.
Great recovery from Jimmy. He's found something in that last sector to reel Robertson back in. We've got 4 minutes left. This is where the bravery comes out.
Fannin is relentless. Another sub -1 to 44 lap, and he is back within half a second of that final podium spot.
He is driving the wheels off that Cortina. You can see it rotating on the entry to the corners. He's using every inch of the track to keep the pressure on Stokes.
Stokes is like a wall, Fannin just can't find a way through, and the gap is hovering around 6/10.
It's the psychological game now. Stokes knows exactly where to place his car to make it as wide as possible, forcing Fannin to take the long way around.
Fovarg is under massive pressure from Constable Barry. Only 3/10 separates them in this battle for 10th.
Neil is sniffing a chance here. Fovarg's last lap was a bit untidy, and if he doesn't hit his marks this time through, he's going to be defending into every single turn.
Fovarg moves up to 9th. He's managed to put some daylight between himself and Constable Barry.
Somebody ahead must have made a mistake or pitted, because Dominic has gained a spot and nearly a second of breathing room in one go. That's a massive relief for him.
Adam Tyus is all over the back of Fovarg, just 3/10 in it as they fight for 9th place.
Tyus has just set his best lap of the race. He's got all the momentum right now, and Fovarg is going to have to get defensive if he wants to keep that position.
Tyus has done it. He's snatched 9th from Fovarg, and they are practically side by side.
Look at that gap. 0 seconds. They are door to door. This is classic Cortina racing, leaning on each other and refusing to give an inch of track.
Leader no more, David Constable Barry has dropped to 2nd, and Chris Stokes is right there, stalking him.
Constable Barry has lost the lead. Stokes is within 4/10, and looks like he's got the pace to take another position if David can't find his rhythm again.
Fannin is right there, 3/10 of a second behind Stokes as he sets his personal best lap.
This is getting intense. Fannin has found a second wind, and he's closing in on the podium battle. If Stokes and Constable Barry start fighting, Fannin is going to sail past both of them.
Fannin is sniffing the exhaust of that car in 3rd, only 2/10 in it now.
He is in the prime overtaking spot. He's shadowing Stokes every move, waiting for the rear of that car ahead to step out just a fraction too much.
Martin Mole has joined the party. He's just 2/10 behind Fannin, and he's the fastest man on track with a 1 minute 43 seconds and 3 milliseconds.
Mole is on an absolute tear. He's carved through the field, and now he's got the podium in his sights. This four-way battle at the front is about to explode.
Stokes has lost the podium spot to Fannin. He's down to 4th and trying desperately to hang on, just a 10th behind.
Fannin got him! Stokes must have made a mistake on that 145 lap, and in this pack, any error is punished instantly. He's glued to Fannin's bumper, trying to take it back.
Stokes fights back. He's reclaimed 3rd place and put 3/10 between himself and Fannin.
What a scrap! I've been in races like this where you're swapping paint every other corner. Stokes isn't letting that podium slip away without a fight.
Lindo is holding on to 8th, but Fovarg is right there, breathing down his neck.
Lindo's defensive line is holding for now, but that gap is shrinking. He needs to nail his exits to keep Dominic from making a move into the heavy braking zones.
Fannin is still hunting Stokes. 3/10 is all that separates them in this fight for the final podium spot.
These two are taking different lines through the corners now, trying to find any advantage. Fannin is braking later, but Stokes is getting the car turned earlier to protect the exit.
Stokes has finally broken the toe. The gap to Fannin has blown out to a full second.
Fannin's pace has just dropped off a cliff. He might have cooked his rear tires in that last exchange, and now he's got no answer for Stokes. Straight line speed.
Martin Mole is right on the limit. He's just a 10th behind Fannin and looks certain to make a move for 4th.
Mole has timed this perfectly. Fannin is struggling, and Martin is practically under his rear axle. He's going to have a look down the inside any second now.
Lindo has lost a place to Fovarg and is now chasing him down, 3/10 the gap.
A 149? Lindo must have had a moment or gone wide somewhere. He's lucky he only lost one position, but now he's got to regain his composure and go back on the attack.
Lindo is trying to stay in touch, but Fovarg is slowly edging away, the gap now up to 4/10.
He's overdriving it. You can see Lindo missing his marks because he's so desperate to make up for that lost time. He needs to breathe and settle back into his rhythm.
They are side by side. Martine Mol and Jody Fannin are absolutely locked together.
Zero gap. This is what VVS is all about. Mol is refusing to lift, and Fannin is holding his ground on the outside. Neither of them wants to be the first to blink.
Rich Snape is just seconds away from glory. He has managed this lead beautifully, keeping nearly 3 seconds in hand over David Constable-Berry.
He has been the class of the field today. No mistakes, consistent lap times, and he is about to be rewarded with the top step of the podium.
Rich Snape takes the checkered flag from second on the grid to the top of the podium. What a performance.
Clinical drive. He took the lead when it counted and never looked back. That is how you manage a race under pressure.
David Constable-Berry crosses in second. He couldn't hold on to the lead, but it's still a massive haul of points for him today.
He'll be frustrated to lose that P1 starting spot, but he stayed clean and kept the pressure on until the very end. Solid result.
Chris Stokes rounds out the podium in third. He fought tooth and nail for that spot all race long.
That was the battle of the race right there. Stokes had to earn every single inch of that third place against some serious pro-level pressure. Well deserved.
Martine Mol leads the rest of the pack home in fourth, followed by Walters, Fannin, and Robertson in quick succession.
Fannin dropping to sixth is the shock of the session. He was right in that podium mix until the very end. It just goes to show how quickly things can change in these Cortinas.
Fovarg, Lindo, Tyus, and Bountakis across the line to complete the top 11.
Those mid-pack battles were relentless. Lindo and Tyus will be pleased to secure top 10 finishes after a really physical race out there today.
And bringing up the rear of the field, it's Neil Constable-Berry and Robert Cormack, finishing in 12th and 13th.
Not the day either of them wanted, especially after the pace we saw in qualifying, but they saw the checkered flag, and that's more than some can say in this championship.
We're in Japan today, home to some of the most exciting circuits on the calendar. Sportsland SUGO is a particular favorite among the drivers, and it's easy to see why.
This is a circuit that really separates the best drivers from the rest. I'm looking forward to seeing who can rise to the challenge and come out on top.
Keep an eye on the front row. Neil Constable-Berry is lining that MK1 Cortina up in P2, right in the thick of it.
Starting on the front row in that machine is no small feat. He will be feeling those pre-race nerves, but the goal is simple. Hold the line and don't let the adrenaline take over into turn 1.
Adam Tyus is tucked in right behind the leaders in P4, looking to spoil the party for the front row.
He is in a prime spot there. From fourth, you can see exactly how the top 3 are reacting to the lights. If Tyus gets a clean launch in that Cortina, he can pick his line while the others are busy squabbling over the apex.
Dominic Fovargue rounds out the third row in 6th. And you know he is not going to be content sitting there for long.
He is the first of the Pro-Am drivers we are seeing on the grid, so there is a bit of a point to prove. These Cortinas are a handful. When you are boxed in like that, he will need to be incredibly precise with the clutch to make sure he doesn't get swamped.
Jody Fannin is starting way back in 8th, which is a massive shock for a driver of his caliber.
Nigel Walters is right in the heart of the mid-pack, starting 9th. It is chaotic back there. He needs to keep his nose clean and wait for the car ahead to make a mistake.
Martijn Mol is lining up in 10th, and that is a mountain to climb for the Dutchman today.
Seeing a pro driver that far back is fascinating. Mol will have his work cut out navigating the AM drivers in front of him, especially in these Cortinas, where one mistimed slide can cost you 3 positions in a heartbeat.
Down in 12th, we find David Constable Barry, who is going to have a mirror full of hungry drivers the second those lights go out. Rich Snape starts from 13th, right in the danger zone as the pack funnels down toward the first corner.
It is a tough draw for Snape. When you are mid-pack like that, you are at the mercy of everyone else's braking points. He will be looking for any gap that opens up in the first few hundred yards.
Robert Cormack has done the business in qualifying, sitting pretty on pole position in that MK1 Cortina.
The view is best from the front, but the pressure is immense. Cormack needs to nail the RPMs and get those rear tires biting immediately, or the rest of the pack will swallow him up before he even reaches the first braking zone.
Green, green, green. The Cortinas scream off the line, and it is a drag race to the first corner.
Cormack got a decent launch, but look at the surge from the second row. Everyone is fighting for the same piece of tarmac right now.
Cormack holds his nerve through the opening complex and keeps that lead intact.
That is exactly the start he needed. He hit his marks, shut the door, and now he can focus on finding a rhythm while the chaos unfolds in his mirrors.
Tyus is glued to the back of the lead trio, holding on to 4th and waiting for someone to blink.
He is staying disciplined. On a cold first lap, it is so tempting to dive for a gap that is not there, but Tyus is playing the long game in P4.
Boutakis makes the move. He snatched second place right out of the gates. Boutakis has muscled his way up into second. He's really put the hammer down on this opening lap.
He sniffed out a gap and didn't hesitate. That's a massive confidence boost to get a scalp that early in the race. Fovargue's had a nightmare of a start, dropping 3 places to 9th, and he's got Constable Barry breathing down his neck only 2 tenths back.
These Cortinas are such a handful, Sky. They look like they are on ice through every single corner.
That is the charm of them. You have to steer them on the throttle. If you are not sideways, you are probably not going fast enough.
We've already seen some massive movers, like Boutakis jumping into second while Fovargue just tumbled down the order.
It is the classic opening lap scramble. You can lose everything in 3 corners if you get boxed in on the wrong line. I have been there, and it is a long climb back up.
It is a mental test as much as a physical one, especially when you are looking at a 30-minute sprint.
Exactly. You are managing the heat in the tires while trying to keep your elbows out. If you overheat those rears early, you are a sitting duck for the rest of the race.
David Constable is absolutely hounding Fovargue here. He is just 2 tenths off the back of that Cortina.
He is sniffing a chance to reclaim another spot. Fovargue dropped back early, and David is smelling blood in the water with 9 minutes left on the clock.
No change in the order yet, but the gap is static at 0.2. Constable Barry is practically living in Fovarg's bumper.
Snape is closing in on David Constable Barry. That gap is down to 0.3, and these three are nose to tail for the minor points.
Snape is on the move. He's picked up 2 spots and is now within 1/10 of a second of Constable Barry.
He is flying. Watching that gap shrink to almost nothing shows Snape has found a rhythm that the guys ahead just haven't settled into yet.
Adam Tyus is charging. He's up into P3 and looking to reel in Jody Fannin, who sits just 0.6 ahead.
Tyus just set his personal best with a 45.6. Fannin is a pro driver and a tough nut to crack, so Adam needs to keep this pressure up while his tires are in the window. Fannin has snatched the lead away from Cormac, and Tyus is now chasing the new race leader with the gap hovering at 0.7.
Bounticus is not letting Fannin escape. He is right there, just 0.3 of a second off the lead.
He is keeping the pressure cooked right up. When you are that close behind a pro like Fannin, you are waiting for even the slightest bobble at an apex to stick a nose in.
Fannin is starting to stretch his legs just a little bit, pulling that gap out to 0.5 second over Bounticus.
It is a game of cat and mouse now. Bounticus had it at 0.3, but Fannin is finding more exit speed. John cannot afford to let that gap grow any further, or he will lose the slipstream.
David Constable Barry is in 7th, but he has got a mirror full of Rich Snape. Only 0.2 separate them. Snape is looking for a way past. He is absolutely glued to the back of Constable Barry.
He is faster on the stopwatch too, over 0.5 second quicker on that last lap. If David doesn't find some pace soon, Snape is going to go for the move into the next heavy braking zone. Constable Barry has actually moved up to 6th, gaining a spot, and he has managed to breathe a little bit, with the gap to Snape growing to 0.4.
David Constable Barry has slipped back to 7th, and Snape is still right there, 0.3 back as they work through lap 3. Things have stabilized for now. The gap is holding steady at 0.3 between David and Snape.
They are pushing each other hard. You can see the cars dancing through the corners. It is a high-speed stalemate right now, but someone is bound to push too hard eventually. Martin Mole is on an absolute tear, up to 4th, and he is only 0.3 behind Tyus now, after that blistering 1 minute 44 seconds and 1 millisecond lap.
Snape is looking for any opportunity. He is just 0.1 behind Constable Barry now.
He is much stronger on the brakes. I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to pull out of the slipstream and outbrake him into the next complex. He is really forcing David to defend.
Snape has done it. He's jumped up to 6th and put a car between himself and David Constable Barry, who has dropped to 8th. Tyus is right on the gearbox of Martin Mole, less than 1/10 of a second in it.
This is a proper battle for the podium. Mole moved ahead, but Tyus is refusing to let go. In these Cortinas, being this close means you are basically seeing nothing but the other guy's boot lid.
Fovargu is in 8th and trying to maintain that 7/10 gap back to Chris Stokes as the race ticks under 4 minutes. Something has gone catastrophically wrong for Fovarg. He has lost a place to Stokes, and that gap has blown out to over 7 seconds.
That looks like a spin or a major excursion off track. To lose that much time in one sector usually means he has had a moment with the grass and struggled to get the car pointed straight again.
It's getting worse for Fauvargues. He's just slipped down to 10th, and the gap to Stokes is growing even further.
The rhythm is completely gone. Once you have a big scare like that, your tire temperatures are all over the place and your head is elsewhere. He needs to just settle down and survive.
Despite the setbacks, Fauvargues is still fighting. He is only 4 tenths behind Rene Robertson for 9th place. Fauvargues is hanging in there, keeping that gap to Robertson at 4 tenths.
He is showing some real grit. He could have easily checked out mentally after that mistake, but he is still right in the wheel tracks of the car ahead, looking to salvage something from this.
Nigel Walters is making huge gains. He's up to 5th and sitting just 3 tenths behind Adam Tyus.
Walters pulls it off. He gets the move done on Tyus to take 4th, and they are practically side by side as they cross the line.
The movement in the middle of this pack is just relentless. Walters, coming from 9th to 4th, is drive of the day material so far.
He has been incredibly clinical with his overtakes. It is one thing to have the pace, it is another to actually pull the trigger and make those moves stick without losing momentum.
And you can see how much the track is evolving. Those best lap times are tumbling as the fuel loads go down.
The cars become a bit more nervous as they get lighter, especially the rear end. You have to be so careful not to overcook the entry and end up facing the wrong way.
We are seeing that with Fauvargues, he is struggling to regain his footing after that earlier incident.
It is the mental fatigue. Racing these vintage machines is a constant wrestling match. By lap 5 or 6, your arms are feeling it and your concentration starts to waver.
Walters has dropped back to 5th, but he is only 2 tenths away from snatching 4th back from Tyus.
These two are putting on a clinic. They are trading positions like it is a qualifying session. Walters knows he has the pace. He just needs to find the right corner to launch his attack.
Tyus has managed to edge away just a fraction. The gap back to Walters is up to 3 tenths.
This is high-stakes stuff. Walters is trying to find a new way around, maybe trying a different line through the complex to get a better run onto the straight.
David Constable Barry is absolutely flying. He just clocked a 144 flat and he is only a tenth behind Snape.
He is hunting him down. That is a massive improvement in pace. If Snape doesn't check his mirrors on this run, Constable Barry is going to pull alongside before they even hit the apex.
Walters is trying everything to find a way past Tyus, 3 tenths back as they work through lap 6. Walters makes it stick. He has snatched 4th from Tyus, and they are side by side again.
He used the slipstream perfectly that time. Tyus gave him just enough room, but Walters was late on the brakes, and he is holding the line into the next turn.
Tyus has pulled it back. He has reclaimed 4th place from Walters as they stay bumper to bumper.
This is sensational stuff. They are trading positions 3 times a lap. Tyus clearly had the better exit there and just powered back past.
Martin Moll is closing in on 2nd. He just laid down a 1 minute 43 seconds and 4 milliseconds, and he is only 4 tenths behind Buntakis.
He is finding pace that nobody else can match at this stage of the race. If he keeps this up, Buntakis is going to be incredibly vulnerable into the final minutes.
Buntakis is holding on. The gap has grown just half a second back to Moll, who is still in 3rd. Walters is still giving it everything. 4 tenths off the back of Tyus as we hit lap 7.
He is just pushing a bit too hard. Into some of these corners, you can see the car beginning to wash out wide. He needs to calm the steering down if he wants to get another clean run at Tyus.
Snape is only 2/10 behind David Constable-Berry, who has regained 6th position. Snape is really applying the pressure. He's stuck at 2/10 behind Constable-Berry.
He is showing him a nose here and there. That constant pressure can be exhausting for the driver ahead. David is having to be absolutely perfect, while Snape just has to wait for one tiny slip.
Jody Fannin is moments away from the win, only 20 seconds between him and the checkered flag.
He is just nursing that lead. Now he has a comfortable 1.1 second gap back to Bounty, and he won't take any more risks.
Jody Fannin takes the win. What a massive performance to go from 8th on the grid to top step on the podium.
He was patient, he was fast, and he was clinical. He is a pro for a reason, but that was just masterfully executed today. He really had to earn that one after a disappointing qualifying.
John Bontakis takes 2nd place. He was a force to be reckoned with all race long.
He gave it a real go and kept Fannin honest to the end. That is a solid haul of points and a fantastic result starting from 3rd.
Martin Mole claims 3rd place after a stunning drive from 10th on the grid.
He was my driver of the day, no doubt. His late race pace was just incredible. If he had another couple of laps, he could have really challenged Bountakis for 2nd.
The mid-pack war finally settles with Adam Tyus holding on to 4th, just ahead of Nigel Walters, while David Constable-Berry manages to fence off Snape for 6th.
What a scrap that was. Tyus and Walters were swapping paint for laps. And for Constable-Berry to hold that gap to 2/10 at the line shows some serious defensive driving under pressure.
Stokes and Robertson pick up the remaining top 10 points, while a frustrated Fauvard settles for 10th, and Neil Constable-Berry brings it home in 11th. Robert Cormack finishes down in 12th. A really tough day for our pole sitter.
That is a bitter pill to swallow. Leading early only to find yourself back in 12th by the checkered flag is one of the hardest things for a driver's ego. He'll be reviewing that race tape for a long time.
It's a lovely day for racing here at Sportsland SUGO as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. TikTok for Nigel Walters. Less than 7 minutes on the clock, and he still hasn't posted a representative time?
Constable Barry is cutting it fine. He needs to get those tires up to temperature and bank a banker lap, or he is going to be blind going into qualifying.
Still, no time on the board for Nigel Walters. He has taken his sweet time getting that car dialed in.
He is playing with fire. If there is a yellow flag or a technical glitch now, he is going into the race with zero data on how this car handles at the limit.
Four minutes and change remaining, and Chris Stokes is still sitting on a blank scoreboard. Robert Cormack is really leaving it late here, barely 3.5 minutes left to find a rhythm.
It is a risky strategy. You want at least 2 flying laps to see how the balance shifts as the fuel drops, and he is barely going to manage one at this rate.
The clock is counting down, and we are still waiting on Stokes to show his hand.
He is under the gun now. One mistake, one lockup, and this whole session is a write-off for him.
David Constable Barry is pushing his luck now, under 3 minutes, and he's still effectively a ghost on the timing screen.
He's got to get a move on. This late in the session, the track is usually at its grippiest, but you've actually got to be on it to take advantage.
Jody Fannin is cutting this paper thin. Just over 2 minutes left, and we haven't seen a single time from him.
He's basically doing a cold start. I used to hate this. No time to build a feel for the brakes, just straight into a hot lap with the clock staring you down.
Constable Barry is right on the edge now. He has to be on a flyer, or he is out of runway. One minute to go, and Chris Stokes is still without a time. This is getting desperate.
He's essentially out of time for a setup change. At this point, he's just driving for a sight lap to make sure the car doesn't fall apart on the grid.
Nigel Walters finally puts a marker down, and what a marker it is. Straight to the top with a 143.2.
He certainly kept us waiting, but that's a statement lap. To jump into P1 with 30 seconds left shows he had that pace tucked away in his pocket the whole time.
Cormac squeezes it in just before the flag. A 148.6 puts him into the 5th spot. And look at that. David Constable Barry comes out of nowhere to snatch the fastest time away with a 142.9.
Talk about leaving it until the last second. He must have found some serious grip in that final sector to go purple and jump straight into P1.
Here we go, folks. The atmosphere is electric as the drivers prepare to unleash their machines on the track at Sportsland SUGO for the qualifying session. 5 minutes and change left on the clock, and we are still waiting on a banker lap from Neil Constable Barry.
Cormac is cutting it fine here. He needs to get some heat into those tires and get a time on the board before the track gets too busy.
Less than 5 minutes remaining, and Dominic Fovarga is still out there looking for clear air to start his first flying lap.
Snape is really leaving it late. With just over 4 minutes to go, he's only got 1 or 2 shots at this before the checkered flag drops.
Tick-tock for Constable Barry. We're 2/3 of the way through this session, and that scoreboard is still blank next to his name.
He's putting a massive amount of pressure on himself now. One small lockup or a bit of traffic, and his entire grid position is compromised.
Constable Barry finally pulls the trigger and rockets straight to the top with a 144.3.
That is a massive relief for him. It is a solid banker, but with over 2 minutes left, he can't afford to just cruise back to the pits.
2 minutes left on the clock, and David Constable Barry still hasn't posted a time. He's cutting this incredibly thin.
He's playing a dangerous game. At this stage of the session, the track is rubbered in, but you run the risk of catching a yellow flag or someone spinning in front of you.
Adam Tyus is the outlier now, the only one yet to show his hand with under 2 minutes to go.
It's nerve-wracking in the cockpit when you've waited this long. You can feel the clock ticking in the back of your mind, and it's so easy to overdrive the entry.
Walters is on a mission, currently sitting in 4th, but hovering just 0.03 off his best pace.
He's right on the edge of that limit. If he can find a tiny bit more through the final sector, he could easily jump up a row on the grid.
Jody Fannin is really redlining the tension now. Still no time on the board with less than 90 seconds to go.
This is it. He's only got 1 shot. If he makes a mistake or gets held up in the final sector, he's starting from the back of the pack.
Talk about leaving it late. Jody Fannin finally punches in a time and jumps right into 4th place with only 30 seconds on the clock. Gontakis is absolutely flying on his final run, over a 10th up on his best as the clock winds down.
He needs to keep it tidy. P8 is decent, but finding that extra 10th could be the difference between a mid-pack scrap and a clean start near the front.
5 seconds left, and Cormac is right on his own personal limit, trying to drag that car higher than 12th.
He's matching his best to the 1,000th, but he needs to find a gain somewhere. It's all or nothing in these final few corners.
Keep an eye on Constable Barry. He is absolutely carving through his previous best, nearly half a second up as he nears the end of the lap. Neil Constable-Berry finds a chunk of time on that last flyer, bringing it down to a 144 flat, though it's not enough to move him up from 10th.
He improved by 0.3, but the rest of the field is clearly finding pace too. He's got a minute to find another gear or he's stuck in the mid-pack traffic for the start. Bontekis is on an absolute tear, nearly half a second up on his best. If he holds this together through the final complex, he is going to rocket up that leaderboard.
Vovarg is well off the pace on this run, over 0.6 down. Looks like he might have caught some traffic or had a moment mid-lap.
Cormac is struggling to find any more time out there. He's 0.3 back on his best, and P12 is looking like a very lonely place to be right now.
A mild wind is with us today at Sportsland SUGO, setting the stage as we prepare to start.
The wind's adding a hint of unpredictability today. Can't wait to see who adapts best, Hal.
Martin Mol is poised for success from pole. David Constable-Berry sitting pretty on the front row, and that Cortina looks absolutely pristine under the lights.
He's in a great spot, but as a Pro-Am driver, he's got the heavy hitters right behind him. He'll need to be inch perfect into turn 1 to keep that MK1 in the lead pack.
Rich Snape starts right behind Constable-Berry, making it a pair of Cortinas at the sharp end of the grid.
Snape's an AM class driver, but starting P3 means he's got the pace to ruffle some feathers. If he gets a better launch than the Pro-Am in front, it's going to get very crowded very quickly.
Dominic Vovarg rounds out the top 5, and that is a lot of British steel clustered at the front of this field.
He is in the danger zone there. Starting P5, you are right in the middle of the chaos. Dominic needs to find a gap and stay out of the door banging that usually happens in that first complex.
Keep an eye on Jody Fannin back in 7th. A pro driver starting that far down the order is a dangerous prospect for everyone ahead.
He'll be slicing through. That Cortina will be on the door handles by the end of lap 1, if the AM drivers ahead don't get their elbows out immediately.
John Buntakis is lined up alongside Fannin, and the Greek driver has his work cut out for him with a pro breathing down his neck.
That is a tough draw for Buntakis. He's got to hold his line and not get intimidated when the faster guys start searching for a way past.
Rounding out the top 10, we have Neil Constable-Berry. He is buried a bit deep here, so he will be looking for a massive launch to get on terms with the lead group.
10 cars back. You are dealing with a lot of accordion effect in the braking zones. Neil needs to be cautious. I have been caught out in that mid-pack shuffle before where someone misses a marker and it is a total car park.
Robert Cormac starts from 12th, right in the thick of that midfield swarm.
It is tough back there. You are fighting for every inch of tarmac, and the vision is terrible with so many cars ahead. Robert needs to be smart, stay out of trouble, and let the race come to him.
The lights are out, and we are racing. Huge launch from the front row as they scream towards the first corner.
Look at that scramble! Everybody is fighting for the same piece of road. You can hear the gearboxes whining as they try to find clear air.
Martin Mol holds his nerve and the lead, perfectly executing that start from pole position.
Clean as you like. He hit his marks, shut the door, and now he has the luxury of being the only driver on track with a clear view ahead.
Tough start for Neil Constable-Berry. He's dropped a spot and is now sitting in 11th as the pack settles in.
He likely got squeezed on the inside or had to lift to avoid a contact. In these Cortinas, once you lose your momentum on lap 1, it is a nightmare trying to claw it back.
Cormac holds steady in 12th, managed to survive that opening lap scramble without losing any ground.
That is a win in my book. Staying out of the gravel and keeping the car straight while everyone around you is lunging is exactly what he needed to do.
Robert Cormac is holding firm in 12th, showing some real discipline while the pack is still bunched up tight.
In that midfield, just staying where you started on the first lap is a result. He's kept his nose clean and avoided the typical opening lap madness.
Bounticus has found another gear. He's moved up to 7th and he's absolutely glued to the bumper of Chris Stokes.
There is no air between them. John is sniffing for a gap, forcing Stokes to drive defensive lines this early in the race. This is high-stakes chess at nearly 100 miles an hour.
Constable Barry is hounding the leader, only half a second back from Martin Mole as they fly through lap 1.
He's keeping Mole honest. With 9 minutes on the clock, David knows he doesn't need to dive bomb yet, but he's making sure that lead Cortina is seeing nothing but white and green in the mirrors.
Martin Mole has found a bit of breathing room now, stretching that lead over Constable Barry to over a second.
David just lost the toe. Once that gap gets over a second, the lead car stops worrying about defending and starts focusing on perfect lines. Constable Barry needs to dig deep and reel him back in before Mole checks out.
Nigel Walters is right there. He's practically under Bounticus' rear bumper as they scrap for 7th.
Zero gap. Walters is looking for any opening. When you're this close, one tiny slip-up from the Greek driver and Nigel is going to be through before Bounticus can even blink.
Wait, positions have flipped. Bounticus has dropped to 8th, and he's desperate to get back past Walters.
That was a quick exchange. John's only 2/10 back, though, so he's still very much in this fight. He's got to stay calm and wait for Nigel to miss an apex.
The battle is raging for 7th. Bounticus is still stalking Walters, keeping that gap at a mere 0.2 of a second.
They're basically tethered together. Bounticus is trying to force a mistake, showing his nose on the entry to every corner. This is relentless pressure.
Drama at the front. David Constable Barry has slipped to 3rd, and Rich Snape has snatched that 2nd spot away.
Snape is flying, but David is hanging right on his tail, just 0.3 back. That 1 minute 43 seconds and 6 milliseconds is a serious benchmark. These two are absolutely pushing each other to the limit right now.
Jody Fannin is on the move, up to 5th and hounding Dominic Fauvargue for 4th place.
Fannin just clocked a 1 minute 43 seconds and 5 milliseconds. He's found his rhythm. He's all over the back of that Cortina. Dominic is going to have to get very wide to keep the pro driver behind him.
Fannin is still probing for a way past Fauvargue, but the gap has just opened up slightly to 0.4.
Dominic is placing his car perfectly. It's one thing to have the pace to catch someone, but it's a whole different game to actually get the overlap and make it stick against a driver who knows how to defend.
John Bounticus has fallen back to 9th now, and he's got Adam Tyus gaining ground behind him.
He's struggling to hold on to the pack ahead. With Tyus only 0.7 back, Bounticus can't afford to look forward anymore. He's got to start checking those mirrors and protecting the line.
Fannin is absolutely relentless. He's closed that gap to Fauvargue back down to just 0.2 of a second.
He just went even faster with a 1 minute 43 seconds and 3 milliseconds. Jody is finding time in every braking zone, literally breathing down Dominic's neck. This is where the mental game really starts to play a part.
Chris Stokes is staying right in the mix here in 6th, keeping Fannin within reach at just half a second.
Look at that lap time, a 1 minute 43 seconds and 2 milliseconds. Stokes is actually the fastest man in this little group right now. If Fannin and Fauvargue keep tripping each other up, Chris is going to be there to pick up the pieces.
Stokes has lost a little ground to Fannin, that gap stretching out to 7/10 now.
He might have pushed those tires a bit too hard on that last flyer. You've got to manage the slide in these Cortinas, and if you get too greedy with the throttle, the rear just overheats and you lose that drive out of the corners.
We are back with Fannin, and he is still glued to the rear of Fovarg's Cortina.
0.2 of a second. This is vintage touring car racing. It's only a matter of time before Jody tries to stick a nose in. 5 minutes left. The clock is starting to become a factor for him.
Stokes isn't letting Fannin out of his sight, hanging steady at 0.6 back.
He's keeping the pressure on. In a race this short, you can't afford to let the car ahead settle into a rhythm. Stokes is making sure Fannin has to work for every inch.
A tiny bit more breathing room for the car ahead as Stokes drops back to 7/10 behind Fannin.
It's that dirty air coming off the lead car's tail. It makes the front end push just enough that you can't quite get the rotation you need. Chris is having to work the steering wheel hard to keep that gap from ballooning.
Jody Fannin has just set his personal best, but Fovargi has managed to pull the gap out to 0.4.
Fovargi is responding. Every time Fannin finds a tenth, Dominic seems to find one right back. That 1 minute 43 seconds and 1 millisecond is blistering, but it's still not enough to get alongside yet.
Stokes is on a flyer. He's just dipped into the 142, and he's right back on Fannin's gearbox.
Sub -1 to 43 is a massive lap. Chris is the fastest car on track at the moment. If he carries this momentum, he's going to be looking for a move on Fannin before the lap is out.
Fannin is now looking in his mirrors more than he's looking ahead, as Stokes is closed to within 0.3.
He's caught in a sandwich now. He wants that 4th place from Fovarg, but if he gets too aggressive with his attack, he's going to leave the door wide open for Stokes to sneak through.
Stokes has done it. He's made the move and snatched 5th away from Jody Fannin.
Wheel to wheel, and Chris comes out on top. There was absolutely no daylight between them there. Fannin is going to be fuming. He's lost a spot while trying to find one.
Wait, Fannin's back ahead. This battle for 5th is turning into a total seesaw, as Stokes stays within 0.3.
These two are putting on a clinic. They're trading blows every corner. Stokes isn't letting Fannin get away with that counter move. He's looking to fight right back immediately.
Fannin has managed to stabilize the lead for 5th, pulling out the gap to 0.4 over Stokes.
He's definitely widened his car. Jody knows Chris has the pace today, so he's focusing on his exits to make sure he's not vulnerable on the straight. Great defensive driving so far.
Back at the front, David Constable-Barry is keeping the pressure on Rich Snape, trailing by just over half a second.
He's been incredibly consistent with those low 43s. He's just waiting for Snape to make one slight error, a missed gear, or a wide exit, and he'll be right back on that second step of the podium.
Stokes is still shadowing Fannin, the gap holding steady at half a second as they power through lap 5.
He's got the pace. We've seen that 142 from him already. He's just biding his time, looking for the overlap. In these cars, you really have to set the overtake up 2 or 3 corners in advance.
Stokes is chipping away at that gap again, now just 0.4 behind Fannin's 5th place.
He's definitely stronger in this section of the track. If he can get a good run off the final corner, we might see a lunge into the first braking zone on the next lap.
Fannin is under heavy fire now. Stokes has closed the gap to just 0.3 as they cross the line to start lap 6.
Jody's pace drops slightly to a 1 minute 43 seconds and 3 milliseconds there. Might be the tires starting to go off, or he's just driving more defensively. Either way, Stokes is smelling blood.
Stokes is hanging in there, but both drivers have lost a bit of pace on that last rotation.
A 1 minute 43 seconds and 6 milliseconds for Chris. They are both sliding these Cortinas around quite a bit now. When the grip starts to fade, it becomes a lot harder to stay right on the bumper of the car ahead without washing out wide.
Fannin has managed to find another tenth of breathing room, keeping Stokes half a second back.
It's a stalemate right now. They're matching each other stride for stride. Stokes needs to try a different line or find a way to get a better exit if he's going to break this deadlock.
David Constable-Berry is still looking for a way past Snape, holding steady at 6/10 back.
He's being patient, but the laps are ticking down. He's got to be careful not to overcook the tires in Snape's wake. This is all about who blinks first in the braking zone.
Nigel Walters is absolutely flying. He's just set a 1 minute 43 seconds and 0 milliseconds, and he's closing in on the Stokes-Fannin battle.
He has the fastest lap of anyone we've talked about today, with that 1 minute 42 seconds and 8 milliseconds. If he keeps this up, that gap to Stokes is going to vanish. We might be looking at a three-way fight for fifth very soon.
Stokes is back within 4/10 of Fannin. He's refusing to let that fifth place go without a fight.
He's got to be careful now. He's looking ahead at Fannin, but Walters is charging up from behind. Stokes is about to be under pressure from both directions.
Stokes is right on him. Only a tenth of a second between 5th and 6th now.
He is in the slipstream. This is the closest he's been for laps. Fannin has nowhere to hide. Stokes is going to have a look down the inside if he can just get the car stopped in time.
David Constable-Berry is turning up the heat on Rich Snape, closing that gap to just 4/10.
He's really forcing the issue now. David knows the race is winding down, and he's starting to take more risks on the corner entries. Snape is going to have to be perfect to hold him off.
Martin Mull is just seconds away from the finish, putting on a dominant display at the front of the field.
He's been in a league of his own. A 3.5 second lead in a sprint like this is massive. He's just got to keep it on the gray stuff for a few more 100 yards.
Martin Mull takes the checkered flag, a lights to flag victory for the man who started on pole.
Measured, clinical, and fast. He didn't put a foot wrong. That was a masterclass in lead management, never letting the pressure get to him.
Rich Snape secures second place, a fantastic drive to gain a spot on the podium today.
He really earned that one. To move up from P3 and then hold off the constant pressure from behind shows he's got the racecraft to match his pace.
David Constable-Berry rounds out the podium in third, bringing home a solid result for the Pro-Am class.
He pushed Snape all the way to the line, but just couldn't find that final opening. Still, a trophy is a trophy, and he's got plenty of points to take home after that battle.
Fauvargue holds on to fourth, followed by Fannin, Stokes, and Walters in a frantic dash for the line.
What a scrap that was. Those four were inseparable for the entire second half of the race. Nigel Walters will be wondering what could have been if he'd had just one more lap with that pace.
Renee Robertson heads the next group in 8th, with Bountakis, Tyus, and Neil Constable-Berry trailing him home.
Bountakis will be kicking himself for losing those spots earlier, but he fought hard to stay in the top 10. Neil Constable-Berry rounds out that bunch in 11th after a tough day in the midfield trenches.
And Robert Cormack brings it home in 12th place to conclude his race.
He stayed out of the chaos and brought the car back in one piece. In a field this competitive, finishing right where you started is a testament to his consistency.
It's a beautifully calm day here at Sportsland SUGO, ready to get things underway.
The tension's building now. This is going to be another great race.
Cormac's done the business in qualifying, putting that Cortina on the front of the grid for the AM class.
Constable Barry is right there on the front row, and in these MK1 Cortinas, that second place slot can sometimes give you a better launch into the first corner.
Tyus is lurking right behind the front row in third, and he'll be looking to pounce the second those lights go out. Bone Takis rounds out the second row, making it an all-Cortina top 4 here as the tension starts to spike on the grid.
He's got a massive task holding off the pack from there. In my experience, that middle of the pack start is where you're most vulnerable to someone getting a flyer behind you.
Walters is lining up in 6th, right in the thick of that mid-pack scrap, where things get narrow very quickly.
He's got a lot of car around him. If Nigel doesn't get those rear tires hooked up immediately, he's going to be hung out to dry into the first braking zone. Fannin is the cat among the pigeons here. A pro driver starting 7th, and you just know he is going to be aggressive trying to slice through those AMs early on.
Fovarg starts from 9th, looking to make that Pro-Am experience count as he tries to navigate his way toward the top 5. That is David Constable completing the top 10, making it a real family affair at the sharp end of the field.
10 cars back is a tough place to be in these Cortinas. You're dealing with a lot of weight transfer, and everyone's searching for the same bit of tarmac.
Rich Snape starts just outside that top 10, and he'll be hoping for a clean getaway to avoid any first lap chaos. Keep an eye on Martin Mole in 12th. It is a lowly starting spot for a pro driver, but he has got the pace to move forward.
He will be frustrated with that grid slot. Starting that far back means he has to rely on the drivers ahead being predictable while he carves his way through.
Green flag! The engines are screaming, and it is a drag race down to the first corner.
Cormac got a decent launch, but look at the movement behind him. Everyone is trying to find air, and it is getting very crowded very quickly.
Cormac holds his nerve and keeps that lead through the opening exchanges.
Clean start for him. Getting through those first few turns without losing the rear end of that Cortina is half the battle won. Phantom is on the move already, up 2 spots into 5th, and showing exactly why he has that pro tag next to his name.
Jody Fannin is absolutely flying. He's already sliced through to 5th before the first lap is even done. Martin Mole is stuck in the traffic for now, still sitting back in 12th place as the pack starts to string out.
It is a nightmare in the mid-pack. You want to make progress, but if you're too aggressive this early, you'll just end up facing the wrong way with a bent axle.
Tough start for Nigel Walters. He's dropped 3 places and finds himself down in 9th. Walters is trying to stem the bleeding after that drop, but he's got Renee Robertson right in his sights now.
Just 4/10ths in it. Nigel needs to stop looking in the mirrors. and focus on Robertson's bumper if he wants that 8th place back.
Bantakis is glued to the back of Constable Barry, just 0.2 the difference as we head into the final 9 minutes of this sprint. Bantakis has lost a spot to 5th, but he is practically under the rear bumper of Constable Barry now. Chaos for Constable Barry. He's plummeted down the order to 12th, handing 3rd place back to Bantakis on a silver platter.
Something has gone catastrophically wrong for Neil there. To lose that much time and 10 positions in a heartbeat, he's either had a massive excursion or a terminal tangle with someone else.
Robertson is under massive pressure here. Snape is practically pushing him along with only a 1/10 of a second between them.
This is where it gets psychological. Robertson can't afford to miss an apex because Rich Snape is right there to capitalize on the smallest mistake.
Snape's made the move. Robertson slips to 8th as Rich Snape finds a way past and immediately tries to break the toe. Robertson isn't taking that lying down. He's back up into 7th, but Snape is absolutely overlapping him.
They are door to door. This is classic Cortina racing, using every inch of the track and a bit of the grass too. Neither of them wants to give an inch.
Bantakis is on a charge, hounding Chris Stokes for 4th, with only 0.2 in it as we tick under 9 minutes to go. Bantakis gets it done. He moves into 4th, but Stokes is hanging right there on his quarter panel.
Beautifully judged. Bantakis used the slipstream perfectly there, but now he's got to get his head down and hit his marks, because Stokes is going to be looking for a way back through immediately.
Stokes fires back. Bantakis drops back to 5th as they continue this frantic seesaw battle for position. Rich Snape has found his rhythm, clocking a 1 minute 46 seconds and 2 milliseconds as he hunts down Walters for 6th place.
He's closing fast. 0.2 of a second is nothing at this speed, and Walters will be feeling the heat from that Cortina filling his mirrors.
Walters has managed to find a bit of breathing room, stretching that gap out to 0.7 now.
Nigel's found a better line, or maybe Snape just overheated his front tires trying to stay close. Either way, that's a crucial bit of air for the car in front.
Martin Mall is starting to make that Pro Class pace count, moving up to 8th and now zeroing in on Rich Snape. Mall is right on Snape's tail now. The gap's been slashed to just 0.2 of a second.
He's stalking him. Martin is taking much tighter lines through the complex, just waiting for Snape to leave a gap wide enough to wedge that nose into.
Walters is putting in a flyer, a 1 minute 45 seconds and 8 milliseconds. He's now less than half a second away from Bantakis in 5th.
Walters is holding steady there. He's matching Bunas corner for corner, keeping that 0.4 gap constant as they push these old cars to the limit.
Martin Mall just lit up the timing screens with a 1 minute 44 seconds and 3 milliseconds. But the gap to Snape has actually grown slightly to 0.6.
Snape must be responding with some serious pace of his own. Mall is driving the wheels off that car, but he's found a very stubborn opponent in that 7th position.
Stokes is on a mission. He's just done a 1 minute 43 seconds and 6 milliseconds, and he is absolutely hounding Adam Tyus for the final podium spot. Stokes makes the move. He's up into 3rd, but Tyus is virtually under his rear bumper.
That was clinical. He forced Tyus onto the defensive line, compromised his exit, and just powered past. But with 0 gap, this fight is far from over.
Walters is relentlessly closing in on Bantakis. The gap is down to just 0.2 now as we enter the final 5 minutes.
He's looking for a way through at every turn. Bantakis is having to get very wide with that Cortina to keep Nigel behind him.
Walters is still glued to the back of Bontakis, searching for any opening.
It's a stalemate for the moment, but the pressure Walters is applying is immense. One tiny lockup from Bontakis and Nigel will be through.
Bontakis is up to 4th now and finds a bit of breathing room, stretching the lead over Walters to 4/10 with a blistering 1 minute 43 seconds and 5 milliseconds. Walters isn't letting go. He's reeled Bontakis back in, and that gap is back down to just 0.2 of a second. David Constable-Berry is absolutely flying, setting his personal best at 1 minute 43 seconds and 1 millisecond, and he's right on the tail of Stokes.
He's finding pace as the fuel load drops. Stokes is under massive threat here. That gap is only 0.3 and closing.
Martin Mol has muscled his way up to 6th, but Rich Snape is practically touching his bumper as they fight for track position. Snape fights back. He retakes 6th place, leaving Mol just 1/10 of a second behind in 7th.
What a scrap. These two are trading positions like it's a playground game. Mol will be fuming to lose that spot so quickly after making a move.
Walters is pushing hard in 5th, currently only 0.3 behind Bontakis as we head towards the closing stages.
He just eclipsed his best time with that 1 minute 43 seconds and 3 milliseconds. Walters is finding more speed as the race goes on, and Bontakis is going to have to find an answer soon.
Nothing to choose between them, Walters is still maintaining that 0.3 gap to Bontakis in a high-speed game of follow the leader. Fovarg is holding on to 10th for dear life, with Renee Robertson just 0.3 of a second back and looking for a way through.
Dominic's pace is consistent, but having someone that close for a whole lap really tests your concentration. One missed apex and Robertson is going to be alongside.
Disaster for Fovarg. He's dropped to 11th, and the gap to Robertson has blown out to over 5 seconds.
He must have had a moment, maybe a spin or a trip through the gravel. To lose 5 seconds in a single sector is a massive blow this late in the day.
Walters is up into 4th, and he's got Bontakis right in his crosshairs for a podium spot, just 0.2 in it.
This is it. The battle for the final step of the podium is really heating up. Walters looks like the faster man right now. He just needs to pick his moment.
Rich Snape is in the mix for 4th, sitting just 0.3 behind Walters, as the lead pack remains incredibly tight. Snape is closing the gap. He's just 0.2 behind Walters now as the pressure continues to mount.
He's sniffing an opportunity. If Walters gets distracted by the car ahead, Snape is perfectly positioned to dive down the inside.
Bontakis is up to 3rd, and he's not done yet. He's stalking Adam Tyus for 2nd place with only 0.3 between them.
He's got the bit between his teeth. Tyus is going to have to get defensive, because Bontakis looks like he's got the momentum right now.
Tyus manages to edge away just slightly, pulling the gap out to 0.4 of a second over Bontakis.
Every 10th counts at this stage. That little bit of breathing room will allow Tyus to focus on his own lines rather than just covering the inside.
Martin Mol is back in 7th, and he's breathing down the neck of Chris Stokes. The gap's only 0.3.
Mol is holding steady behind Stokes. He's trying to force a mistake, looking left and right, trying to unsettle him as they work through this section.
Stokes is in a proper fight to hold 6th, with Mall glued to his rear bumper only 3/10 back.
Chris is doing a great job of placing that Cortina exactly where it needs to be. Mall is clearly faster in some sections, but Stokes is making that car very wide.
Stokes moves up to 5th. He's gained a spot while keeping Martin Mall at bay, though that gap is still a razor-thin 3/10. Martin Mall is hounding Nigel Walters for 6th. The gap is down to just 2/10 as they battle through lap 7.
Walters just manages to hold him off for now, stretching the gap by a tiny margin. But Mall is absolutely relentless in his pursuit.
Bontakis is keeping the pressure on Tyus for that 2nd spot, maintaining a gap of 4/10 as the laps count down. Bontakis is shadowing Tyus. Every move, that gap is frozen at 4/10 of a second.
This is a real game of chess. Tyus is hitting his marks perfectly, but Bontakis is just waiting for that one lapse in concentration to make his move for 2nd.
Jody Fannin has absolutely checked out, nearly 9 seconds clear as he sights the checkered flag.
What a dominant display from the pro driver. He carved through the field and just disappeared into the distance, leaving everyone else to fight for the scraps.
Jody Fannin takes the win. From 7th on the grid to the top step of the podium, a masterclass in overtaking today.
Adam Tyus brings it home in 2nd. A brilliant drive to hold his nerve and secure a podium finish from 3rd on the grid.
And John Bontakis takes the final podium spot in 3rd, a hard-earned result after a race-long battle for every inch of tarmac. Rich Snate leads the rest of the pack home in 4th, followed closely by Stokes, Walters, and Mall, who have been inseparable all afternoon.
Those 4 were in a league of their own for entertainment. Martin Mall will be kicking himself for 7th, but that mid-pack scrap was some of the best Cortina racing I've seen in years.
David Constable-Barry crosses in 8th, with Robertson and Fauvard following, while the pole sitter Robert Cormack eventually limps home in 11th.
It's a heartbreak for Cormack after starting on pole, but it just shows how unforgiving this championship is if you lose your momentum early on.
Finishing 12th is Neil Constable-Barry.